she asked a really good question about client management. Lavani asks, a client gave me full access to their Google Analytics. Awesome. When you have a client that has had Google Analytics set up for a while, how far back should you go to pull reports to get an activity on the website? Should it be 6 months? I think that's a super question. And how I deal with it might be different than what the client expects. But the first step I always do when I get a new client, and I always ask for Google Analytics access. And a lot of them already have it. Great. But the first thing I do is make sure Google Analytics is installed correctly. So I make sure and check that every page on the site has the code. I check to make sure no IP addresses are excluded. There's no funny business as far as modifying the code in the view, because someone could have, in a more advanced Google Analytics setups, you set up view changes and you exclude an IP address, or you set IP addresses. So I'd want to make sure all that's done correctly, because I would like to make sure the old data is right.
Yeah.
And as a rule, when I get a new client, I offer no warranties to data before when I start. So
you say that again. You offer no warranties to data before you start. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Okay.
I only refer to data confidently from when I get control of the account, because I can't ensure in the past it was set up accurately. Now I'll have more confidence if I can look and confirm it is at the point I receive it, it's on every page of the site. And at the point I receive it, there's no weirdness with IP addresses or views or modifications like that. Then I'm more confident in that old data. But as a rule, I tell clients, I can make no guarantee to the accuracy of your data before I received it.
Yeah.
So I always report to clients starting from day one. That's when I report, because they're hiring me to grow their business from that point.
From that, yeah. Okay.
I don't know, a year ago, 6 months ago, I don't know what was going on. I don't know, was the analytics broken? I don't know, was there a major problem with the site? I don't know this stuff. So I can't stand behind the data at that point. But when I inherit it, at that point I control how analytics is working, and then I can be very confident in that data. So just as a rule, when I get a new client, I say, hey, I'm happy to look at your old data, but I will confirm it, the data's accuracy as much as I can, but I just want you to know, I offer no guarantees for that data.
Yeah.
And so sometimes clients don't like that, and they want me to compare myself against last year. Mm-hmm. I will try to accommodate them as best as I can, but I'll always put a little asterisk and say, can't promise your old data is correct. I do know once I've inherited it, it's accurate at that point.
Yeah.
But I can't. And especially if after you've received a new account, pardon me, and investigated, and if you discover an error, let's say you find out the analytics code is only on the homepage, which I've seen before. Or there is some loop or redirect problem in the view that's not processing all the data. Then I would tell the client, all your data prior to this point is wrong.
It's no good. Yeah.
And I would make a notation like we talked about last time in Google Analytics.
Yes. Yeah.
At that point, fixed analytics error data is accurate from this point forward, right?
Yeah.
But so, that's just my preferred. Sometimes I insist on more, and I just make sure they understand that there are things that could go wrong that I would have no idea, because I wasn't managing it then.
Yeah. So a question on that. So when you say that you take a look at it, make sure there are no IP address excluded. It's on all pages and all of that. Is there like a, where do you go to check on all of that? Is it like in your views? Like, so for, for now, we're talking Google Analytics, of course. I don't know how, because J4, I haven't even looked at how any of that.
Yeah. So I'm talking Universal Analytics.
Yes.
And only at this point. Universal Analytics, the first thing I would do is go to the Curious Ants game plan. In there's process to confirm that Google Analytics has never paged your site. Follow that process.
Okay.
Okay. And confirm. Second thing is that the weekly Google Analytics report you set up will show you if you are getting referrals from your own website.
That's right. Yeah.
If you do ever get a referral from your own website, you might have a tracking problem. So at that point, you know you need to investigate. If you ever see anything greater than 0, it should always be 0. There are other circumstances, but if there's greater than 0, you need to investigate. Second, as I go into the account property view, and there's an advanced section in there where you can go in and set up rules such as excluding the IP address or modifying the URLs or things like that. Go into that and look and understand, I think it's called filters.
Okay. Yeah.
And see if there are filters set up. And if they are, make sure they're correct, make sure they're in order because it processes in order. And just rule out errors. Because, someone could have set up something well-meaning a long time ago that's no longer true. For instance, there's one point the Google Analytics class said, hey, if you want your URLs to always show lowercase in Google Analytics, use this rule to make sure it only shows up in lowercase. Because sometimes your server will show it uppercase or lowercase. Well, that's a problem. If your Google Analytics data is only showing everything as lowercase, it does consolidate your data as lowercase URL, but you could have an SEO problem on your site because Google could see an uppercase or a lowercase version of the same URL, therefore duplicating it. So you'd want to know that. And the only way you'd know that is by going into the view and looking at the filters that are installed.
Okay.
And while I was in there, I would go ahead and set up the 3 views we like to set up: the main view, the backup, and the testing. But of course, once you set those up, the data is only from that point going forward. It can't go backwards. So from that point forward, you'd have a backup that was unadulterated. But Lavania's question is a really good one.
Yeah.
Because sometimes clients insist you compare against, yourself, their data. I would have a conversation with the client to say, okay, I've investigated and hopefully you found no problems, but I would put a big asterisk and say, I can't guarantee the accuracy of your old data. I can stand behind it now. But all of my reports to all my clients are always baseline month is the first month I start.
Yeah. Okay.
And from that point forward, so I'm basically saying if I started in September of 2021, the first report will compare October 2021 with September, October 21.
Yeah.
And I won't do year to year until I'm back to September of 2022.
Yeah.
But I won't compare my data with August or February. But that's me. And I've seen some problems in Google Analytics before. And if your client's pretty adamant, then I would just have an honest conversation about the limitations and say, okay, I've looked, it looks accurate, but I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I would do. So, but that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that, Lavania, even though you're not here to join us.